Hey, we're on. Hey.
Oh.
1 2 1 2.
Test. Is this thing on?
Yeah, microphone check. 1 2. What is this? Hey, so listen. We're here for show number 84, the Ride Along Radio Show. Can you believe that, man? 84, 84.
84.
So we're closing in on that fateful
That's
show 100. That's
and a couple of mofos.
84. 84. So I'm George Holt. I was a police officer for a number of years in different parts of Los Angeles. Worked a bunch of different assignments, and that is what forms my perspective and informs my opinions on these topics we're going to discuss today. And we got a whole bunch of stuff to discuss. And here's Gil Contreras.
I'm Gil Contreras, and you're not.
Pretty simple. I'm glad there's only one, actually. So that's good that you guys aren't all Gil Contreras.
Look, I'm not going through my resume every week. I ain't doing it.
Well, yeah, you know,
if you don't know who I am by now, just Google me. You'll learn more than you ever cared to know about me.
Yeah, that's true, right? Start with Gil O'Reilly, and then and work back from there.
Because I ain't even supposed to be here.
That's what you told
Kevin Haynes.
He said, Kevin, you ain't even supposed to be here.
Supposed to be here, homie. Trying to comment on the Gil Contreras Facebook page. What's up with that?
So we did have some social media feedback, but there's so much stuff to talk about today that we're going to start off with. I think the topic of the day that's on everybody's talk today, everybody's Facebook feed, etc., is the Orenthal James Simpson.
The death of the guy from Lincoln Park.
Well, I was going to say that too, but I have kind of a personal connection to that, so I'm going to leave that alone and just say, rest in peace, dude. You're a good dude, and I'm going to leave that alone.
Wow, just like I was going to make fun of it, but
I thank you.
Maybe I won't.
Yeah, thank you.
I feel bad now. I was gonna.
Yeah, no, it's way too much connection there. So, that was a tough one. Anyway, so let's go to the O.J. Simpson show. So O.J. had his hearing today to see if he could be paroled after serving 9 years in a Nevada penitentiary for robbery, but really double murder. And this is his chance to come up. I think his max was 20 years. Was it 9-20 or something like that?
33.
9-33?
33.
Right, which is, for him, that's death, right? So
apparently, but the way they compute his time, he'll be free and clear by, what was it, 21, 26, something like that? And people were going, hey, wait a second, that doesn't add up to 33 years.
Right, but it's in there. It's within that period.
So in the formula, apparently, it gets chopped in half if you do your time and you don't have any problems.
And they said he's been a model prisoner, And let's be honest, I mean, until the troubles of 1994, O.J. Simpson wasn't one of these guys who was in the news for a lot of bad stuff. He had his domestic violence issues that was kind of swept under the rug.
That was only in circles that knew him.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And in police circles in Pacific.
In West L.A., yeah. West L.A.,
yeah.
Yeah, but the Juice wasn't a guy who was getting high.
I just call him Hugo.
El Hugo. He wasn't a guy who was out thugging or doing any of that stuff. It just wasn't what he was about. So he knows how to conform.
His world was white. He was in white man's world.
Yeah, he
lived in Wayne's world.
And did it quite well too for a number of years. But still,
and nobody mad at him for that.
But even then, you still have bad boys. You have Sean Penn and Robert Mitchum and all these other dudes who've been in the white man's world who've been acting up. And he just wasn't that. Yeah, Robert Mitchum was a bad boy back in the day. He was one of the first celebrities to go to prison for marijuana. Robert Mitchum did time.
Bob Mitchum?
Robert Mitchum did time for smoking weed. Yeah.
Wow.
Back in the 50s when it was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
Yeah. So he so there's been that bad boy thing that OJ just kind of stayed away from until the troubles of '94.
Well, it's hard to be a hard. It's tough to be a hard guy when you're in Detective Nordberg.
Right, from Naked Gun.
Right. It's kind of hard to.
But the Juice is from the hood now. Originally, he's from the hood.
For Oaktown.
He's no San Francisco. He's from the Potrero Hills projects.
That was
in San Francisco. That's in San Francisco. Yeah. So Juice is from the Jacks now. Right. And then he went to the University of South Central, and he played ball down there. But I think it was a different world at USC back then.
Yeah.
But you're right. So what I'm saying is I don't think the Juice is going to have any problem staying on the straight and narrow unless he still feels the need to punish himself for the troubles of '94. And gets himself in trouble under that need to be punished. Because a lot of people do that. They self-sabotage. As my man Geoff Brown would like to say, if somebody's sabotaging your life you can be guaranteed that part of it is an inside job. So that's what the juice did. I feel that he got involved with this nonsense with in Las Vegas because he felt the need to be punished for what he got away with in '94. That's just my perspective on it. Yeah. That's just human psychology, you know.
Yeah. I watched the hearing today, and you know, I was stunned, you know, at what he was saying at times, because to me he's a classic criminal. He's a classic.
Really?
He's a classic sociopath.
Well, sociopath, yeah, but he's not like a common criminal kind of caper with a crowbar kind of guy.
Well, he doesn't do burglaries, but he's a criminal. He's definitely got a criminal mindset. And, you know, he's like every other criminal I ever met, you know, when I worked with incarcerated youth or went to probation or did interviews at Folsom, or, you know, all the stuff that I've done. Because in addition to being a police officer, I was also a defense investigator. So I've talked to some criminals who are locked up, and he fits the profile. He sounds just like them. They never think it's their fault. They always think it's somebody else's fault. They always think it's just bad luck, and they always wish, you know, I wish it didn't happen. You know,
not that I should have done it.
Yeah. You know, and I listened to him, and he, you know, he shifted blame from himself. He wouldn't take responsibility. From the very first question when they asked him, you went there with a gun to take your stuff. What were you thinking? And he goes into this long description. I'm listening on the radio, right? You know, on my car, and I'm like, what in the world are you talking about?
He's rambling?
He was just rambling and trying to set it up. He was like trying to convince them, like, I wasn't a criminal. I had no intent. I didn't intend for a crime to occur. And he tried to make people believe that he was there with guys that had guns, that he didn't know they had guns. He didn't know who they were. He didn't ask to bring them. And it was always somebody else's fault. It all went down the way.
He kind of got caught up in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, I understand going to get your stuff back, but you can't rob people. You can't rob people of your stuff.
Right.
You know.
And so, you know, I just think I was sure he was going to get paroled. There was no reason.
Yeah, I didn't have any doubt.
If you look at the guidelines and you know, you read how he's been there, he was going to get released. Everybody thought that. But when he started talking, it just I think myself and a whole bunch of people who covered it, you know, both investigators and cops and media people and attorneys, they were all just looking at it and shaking their head. Like,
you had lay people, you know, dude, saying that he needs to shut up.
This dude has not changed one bit. You know, I mean, one of the most stunning things he said, you know, when he was talking about, he goes, you know, I didn't have a gun that day. I never pointed a weapon at anybody. Right. On the robbery, which is true.
Right.
And then he said, I never pointed a weapon. I never threatened anybody with a weapon at any time in my life. Yeah, except for the double homicide, for God's sake.
He ain't going to cop to that. He ain't going to sit up and say that.
I know, but I'm in the car going, yeah, right.
He ain't going to cop to that. He ain't going to say, well, except the time y'all let me kill the two white people and walk. But I walked, so you can't count. He ain't going to say that.
Yeah, and it was a knife. It wasn't really a gun.
Because he knows he's doing time for that. Yeah. So he's not going to bring that up at all. Everybody understands that he's doing time, not for the robbery, but for the double murder. So the last thing
and I think the parole board does too. I think they recognize that as well. And you know, but it was kind of interesting, even the way that it started. You know, when the woman was reading things about him, that you know, is this true? They said they gave his age as 90.
What?
And then she goes, oh, I'm sorry. And then they correct it to 70 because he just turned 70 a week and a half ago or something. But that caused the board and everybody in that room to chuckle. And I'll tell you, as I'm listening, as soon as that happened, when she said 90, I went, huh? And then she said, and she corrected herself. And the way she did it, it just
broke the ice.
It broke the ice. Everybody chuckled. And I go, oh, man, this guy's getting paroled.
No tension in the room.
Chill. There's no tension in the room.
Well, let me ask you a question. Now, see, I didn't see the whole thing. I saw parts of it. But now you were listening to the whole thing, it sounds like, or much of it.
Pretty much most of it, yeah.
One observer remarked that it was possible that they were starstruck. This is Nevada now. Mm-hmm. This isn't the California Department of Corrections where we have high-profile people who get locked up and have them in custody, and it's not an unusual occurrence. This is Nevada. I don't know who else high-profile is locked up in Nevada right now. You know?
I don't know if anybody, I don't know.
So I wonder if he got preferential treatment, if he was still the juice behind bars, and it seems like he was, according to that guard that wrote the Felix. Yeah. Jeff Felix, I think is his name, who wrote the book that you're not supposed to write about the time he spent guarding OJ. And it seems like he was still the juice behind bars.
Yeah, I think that from what he was describing about how he would get called to mediate disputes either between
on the
people
yard
or in the prison. He would,
because he was a respected guy.
He talked about sureños and norteños.
What?
Yeah, he did. And so it was,
Juice was Juice a shot caller?
He wasn't.
What's going on?
He wasn't a shot.
Did Juice get in the car with somebody when he was in there? What?
He wasn't a shot caller, but he, because of his celebrity, I think he just became.
He had the credibility.
He was one in there.
Yeah, right.
And because he was trying to be this model prisoner, and and actually, I think played by those rules. I think eventually, his legal team must have told him, "Look, you can get out at some point, but you're going to have to do these things while you're here."
Right.
And I think he did a pretty good job of doing that while he was there. Unlike, one of my bosses who was in prison on both coasts. When I was in charge.
Yeah, I know you're talking about the same guy I talked about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Who acted a fool in prison,
in court,
all that. Yeah. Everywhere he goes, he does that. But apparently OJ didn't do that, and so apparently he was, kind of seen as a kind of the older dude with some wisdom, apparently,
sure.
And some, he's a classic manipulator, though.
Well, he's a guy who had been exposed to a lot of things that many of those people hadn't been exposed to.
Right. He was way more sophisticated than anybody that he's going to encounter in there.
Exactly.
So, but at the end of the day, he just, I feel very strongly that it's only a matter of time before he creates another thing that causes him to violate parole and he finds himself back in prison. I don't think he can help but be O.J. Simpson, and he's a sociopath. And when it happens, he won't know why.
It'll be somebody else's fault.
It'll be somebody else's fault, and he'll think people are after him, and if it weren't for bad luck, he'd have no luck at all.
Well, you know what? Here's a guy who spent the first 50 years of his life leading a charmed life, and then his life went from sugar to shit. And it just seems like that, he keeps turning it that way.
It was charmed to the degree that he could keep the domestic violence stuff and the infidelity stuff
what did she
on the
say?
DL.
That's what Nicole said. She goes, one of these days, he's going to kill me, and he's going to OJ his way out of it. Because he was OJ. He knew how to wield that celebrity charm. And
he had OJ'd himself out of being arrested a couple times, with West LA Division over there. So
he had guys from West LA Division hanging out at his house.
Yeah.
Kicking it with him.
Yep.
So I mean, yeah. And that was back before you shall arrest on domestic violence.
Yeah.
Because that law didn't come into effect till 88, I think 89, something like that. So anyway, so the juice is he's not loose yet, but he's about to be loose in October. So I say set him free and let him be. Just Juice, go sit your 70-year-old ass down someplace. Play golf like every other retired 70-year-old man living in Florida, and mind your business and stay out of the penitentiary and enjoy your kids and your grandkids.
He can't do it. He can't do it. He can't do it. He wanted to do it.
Maybe a 50-year-old Juice couldn't do it, but the 70-year-old Juice may have certain trouble. Well, they got that blue pill now.
I was going to say
that's because he might calm down.
Look, let him get all high up, all up on Niagara. That's what they call it in the ghetto. Now he all up on Niagara with that 20-year-old girlfriend. Right.
Well, and stay away from that too, Juice. So anyway, so that happened there, and you know what? There's a video that you brought up a couple of weeks ago, and it's been on the agenda, but we keep hopping it. It's still a relevant thing, and it's an exciting video to watch, and that's the McDonald's bum fight in Santa Monica. Remember that? You posted it on Facebook a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Why do you call it a bum fight? Look, I don't think you can call them bums in 2017.
Well, okay. The vagrant, the hobo.
Can't call it. Whoa. You can't say hobo.
Hobo.
No, but you can't say hobo or homo.
I said hobo with a
Hey, look, any ho, any mo. You can't say it, okay? No ho, no bo.
No ho, no mo. Okay.
No, Lord Jesus. Well, not on the Morris Media Live Network. Please believe.
A vagrant tussle.
It wasn't even a vagrant. You can't call him vagrant.
You can call him a vagrant now.
He's a disenfranchised homeless American.
What's the acronym for that?
CB with Debo.
So anyway, we had this happen in Santa Monica, and there was a guard at McDonald's who approached
he was just security.
He was a security guard. He had mace though, and it was two homeless people sleeping in the McDonald's. He rolled up on them, asked them to leave, and then it went south. And here's the video of that.
On video, a nasty attack inside a West Side McDonald's. The fight broke out between a security guard and at least 2 homeless men.
Others jumped in, and the violence went on for several minutes. CBS 2's Elsa Ramon is live in Santa Monica with the bigger problem that the video is exposing. Elsa?
Yeah, a lot of the business owners, Rick and Susie, and the workers down here say they see this all the time. They weren't at all surprised to hear about this violent attack on the security guard. They say every single day is a struggle, and they watch the homeless people every day commit crimes and violence. It didn't take long for things to escalate once the security guard asked the 2 sleeping homeless men to leave the McDonald's on the corner of Colorado and 2nd in Santa Monica shortly before 4 this morning. The security guard tries to mace one of the alleged attackers while other customers jump in to help the guard. The fight spills onto the sidewalk but doesn't end there. It moves back inside where the guard continues to take punches until police arrive.
That happens all the time.
This Santa Monica Bike Center employee says she's not surprised. The bike shop is across the street from the McDonald's. She says most of the surrounding businesses have had their own struggles with violence and crime committed by homeless people.
My bag got stolen here before. People will walk up here, just try to steal bikes. I've seen 2 homeless people fight over a bag. They've knocked out all of our bikes.
Santa Monica PD says they ramp up patrols in this area every summer after the 4th of July to deal with the increase in tourists and homeless people. Mark Prague is homeless and admits the 24-hour McDonald's is a refuge from the streets in this area.
This is the only place everybody's got to come.
Jenny says this McDonald's needs to shut down overnight, or the problems will continue.
It's unfair for the workers because I'm pretty sure they don't get paid enough to deal with that, especially for the security guards. It's not safe.
Santa Monica PD told me tonight the security guard is actually
Elsa Ramon.
Was that? I was waiting for them to say her name.
Elsa Ramon.
Really? The lovely Elsa Ramon. Okay.
Yeah.
That's one thing about working at the airport. I used to see all kind of newscasters, and you'd see all of them, the ones in real life, that you wonder how they look on the screen. You see them on the screen, but you see them in real life, and sometimes it's a disappointment. Sometimes it's not at all. Mm-hmm. So I never ran into her.
Yeah, that's Elsa Ramon.
I did see Sharon Tay. You remember Sharon Tay?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So and Leslie, what's her name? Leslie, light-skinned female, black with green eyes.
I don't believe you can call them female.
Leslie
blacks.
Sykes. Leslie Sykes. Yeah, Leslie Sykes. Like that.
I don't believe you can use the term female black.
I can. She's female. She's both.
That's a police term for.
Well, we don't have a term like Latina. Like we can just say, instead of saying female Hispanic, you can say Latina. We don't have that.
You just say sister. We all know what you're talking about.
Sister.
She's sister.
Light-skinned sister with green eyes.
She light-skinned.
Light-skinned with green eyes.
But she's not big-boned. That's the thing.
See,
that's
you
the
did
thing.
work wise.
That's the thing.
So we saw the homeless altercation, and I was at the damn McDonald's last week, actually right before the show, because I stopped. I was in a loaner car, which didn't have Wi-Fi like my car does, so I had to stop, go to damn McDonald's, set up my laptop to do some work, and while I'm there, I noticed a homeless in there. It seems like that's the thing now for homeless to go to the damn McDonald's, and so yes, I say damn McDonald's instead of McDonald's. That's just the thing.
I was going to say
the damn McDonald's.
McDonald's.
But you got to say the damn McDonald's. It's, if I'm just saying McDonald's, I'll say McDonald's. But if I'm going to say McDonald's, I got to put damn in front of it as the modifier. The damn McDonald's.
I see.
So I'm at the damn McDonald's, and I got my laptop open, and I'm doing some work, and then I see a security guard who's outside minding his business, and there's 2 homeless guys inside, and they're talking crap about the security guard. He don't like me, and he even said he don't like me because I'm light-skinned. And I looked over at the bum, and I couldn't tell if he was or not because he was so dirty. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's just a thing that happens at McDonald's, right? Fighting bums and stuff. But you got to be careful, man, because
you can't call. First of all, you can't call them bums. I'm stunned that a lefty liberal like yourself would, stoop to using such derogatory terms to refer to a disenfranchised homeless person. For God's sake,
disenfranchised homeless American. He's shelter challenged. Well, I'm just saying it's got to be a tough gig because first of all, they got all kind of street diseases, and you remember when they had the Skid Row, what do they call it? It was all over Central Division, and all the people working, all the officers working Skid Row would get this. They'd have a skin disease that you'd have to really. It was like a staph infection, and it was called like the Skid Row cooties. That's what they call it, the Skid Row cooties. So
That's a medical term.
Yeah, right. That was
Sure.
just the Central Division coppers were calling it that.
Skid Row cooties.
Yeah, and you have people coming out with staph infections and stuff. Right, it was like something really bad going on down there. So you got to be careful with that. And they're living out there hard, man. You know them knuckles, man. That bum fist is like leather wrapped on steel. So you fighting some dude who's just, out in the streets, living on the sidewalk. It's not a good thing. And they don't pay him anything. And he got to put up with that.
Yeah.
He was giving it to him, though. He did hot face one of them. You saw that.
It wasn't very effective, though. It didn't slow him down.
I think maybe it would have got him later. But again, he's living the bum life. So that to him is not as like you're going to get somebody else, like as you would say, a normal person. He's got immunity built up to certain things, living on the streets, man. So that pepper spray didn't really mean a whole lot to him. I did like the guy with the chair at the end, though, that WWE chair throw he did. And I think he was just a fry cook or something that came out of the back to get in the action.
He looked like just a Mexican who's in there trying to have his his Mac sandwich, and
he was just some dude eating. Is that he was gonna get some?
And he just saw the security guards on the floor, and there was 2-on-1.
They were wearing him out too at first.
That's not fair. But I mean, they weren't getting really good. They weren't getting good hits on him because it wasn't slowing the security guard down. He was still fighting. Good for him. He couldn't, but he was trying to recover, but he just didn't he didn't hurt either of them enough to back him off for a second so that he can get either go to his baton or
but still, being that it's 2-on-1 and he still, was on his feet at the end, that's still pretty good.
Yeah.
But they might have been intoxicated or something too.
Yeah, they were. It wasn't a fast-moving fight. It wasn't.
It was
more of a struggle than than anything else. But some of the one of the security companies that I do some stuff for, this is their biggest problem. And they have more and more McDonald's and Burger King.
See, that's all money ain't good money, man. You have to really think about that before you take those kind of accounts on because you just don't know.
Yeah, and I've seen my share of these guys, and they seem like they're out of it, for a minute,
right?
But I went to one the other day, and I heard one of the guys go Code 6, and and I was thinking, because I was on my way to something else.
That Code 6 means he's out to deal with something, right?
Right. So it just seemed like it was taking a long time for him to come back on the radio.
Right.
So I was near there, so I decided to stop. So I popped in, and I see the guy and go, hey, what's going on? I go, this dude, this white dude tatted down. He looked like a AB 109 frequent flyer to me. But so. When he saw there was two of us and then kind of tactical angles on him, he was trying to play, I'm trying to buy something on the app because I don't have any money. So he's fucking with this phone.
Right.
He ain't got no app. He got, but it wasn't my call. So I just
back out and let him handle it.
I'm going to let him do his thing. I'm just back his play.
Right.
And then, so pretty soon, now here comes the sergeant.
Right. What's going on?
And it's like, hey, now there's two of you and it's still taking a long time, So I kind of backed off and said, hey, I'm letting him do his thing, but but when the disenfranchised homeless American who looked like an AB 109 frequent flyer, when he noticed there was three of us, kind of geared out,
right?
That's when he you know what? Start get all his shit.
I'm gone.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that guard in that video, I don't know if he's a standing guard at McDonald's where they just said, hey, I want these two guys out. Because if it is, that's not the time. It's when they're first starting to doze off.
Right.
That's the time to say, "Hey."
Instead of waking them up out of the slumber.
Yeah, because I've had to do both, and you wake them up, but when you're all geared out and people look at you, when they first wake up and they look at you and they go, "Oh, yeah, get your stuff."
Yeah,
we got to go outside,
and it's that simple. And don't let them get comfortable.
Yeah, and the people that are there just trying to eat, they're just normal people, just working class people,
right?
Trying to have their biscuit and their coffee in the morning.
The damn McDonald's.
But when it's raining or when it's really cold or when it's really hot, these people have nowhere to go.
So they're going to go into some place they can be 24 hours, like a McDonald's or a 7-Eleven or whatever.
Exactly, and so if they buy something.
They have every right to be there.
They have every right to be there.
Sure.
They just can't stay 5 hours after they had their coffee.
Right.
At some point, you have to go because it's private property, but it's open to the public. But the property management can revoke that
right,
privilege
anytime
they want to.
Well, yeah, and you know, I don't know, man.
But this is what's going on in the city of Los Angeles. This is what, you're going to see this everywhere now.
Well, and Santa Monica's always been a haven for the homeless.
Right.
It's always been. They were the first place to put, and this is politically incorrect to say in 2017, but they were the first city to put those bum bars on the bus benches and the park bench. You know what I'm talking about? So they had benches.
Never heard of a bum bar.
I'm going to explain to you what it is, and they were calling them bum bars.
I've heard of rebar, but not bum bar.
These are bum bars, like rum bar, but with a B. It's bum bar. And so what they were doing was the homeless would lay on the park benches. So they start taking these wooden rectangles and fastening them to the benches every couple of feet, so you could sit between them. But if you try to lay over them, it wasn't comfortable. Okay, and they did that to discourage people from laying on the benches, and they were called bum bars.
Bum bar.
And people got upset about that. Now, here's an interesting thing. If you go to Las Vegas, particularly north of Las Vegas, and you drive it up the street and you look at the bus benches there, they don't have bus benches like a level flat bus bench. They have a bunch of cubes at different heights for you to sit on, but you could never lay on them because they're at extremely different heights.
Can I just do this for bum bar?
Go ahead. Bum bar, okay,
that's
cool.
For bum bar.
Yeah, so North Las Vegas didn't go with the classical bum bar approach. They just had a bunch of cubes set up, like stone cubes that you sit on. I guess they're still there. That you sit on, but you can't lay on them because they're at varying heights inside the bus shelter.
Wow.
So anyway, Santa Monica was known for that. But yeah, you're right. We're going to see that more and more. But you know, a lot of this, man, is due to mental illness, drug abuse, and or both. And there's not as many resources as there were at one time for this kind of thing. So,
there's, you know, I think that's kind of a misconception. There's a lot of resources, and both the county and in the city of Los Angeles especially, they devote a whole bunch of money to stuff. The problem is, if you ever work with these people, what you find out is that they don't really want to go to a shelter. They don't want to detox.
So there's rules at a shelter.
They don't want to get sober. These homeless people are really living The Walking Dead. For them, it's already the apocalypse has
already
happened.
They're gonna do just fine should there ever be a zombie apocalypse.
They're surviving, and that's how they live. But that's how they want to live. And you know, for a lot of parolees and sex offenders that can't rent an apartment somewhere,
right?
They're just out there. They're lost. They're lost in the shuffle, and they find these little enclaves of groups of people, and they find a spot and. Next thing you know, they're all.
Got a tent city.
Yeah, but they're getting government checks for something. A lot of them are on disability.
Right.
A lot of them are on GR. They get.
Well, what
checks.
I meant by resources, remember back in the day we had Patton State Hospital and we had the one in Downey. What was it called? You know what I'm talking about? It was I can't remember the name of it, but it was.
It was Metro. Was it Metro?
It's in Downey, Norwalk area. Looks like an old Marine Corps base. If you're down there, we used to always train down there for K-9 and stuff. But it'll come to me later in the show. But there's a lot of state mental hospitals that got closed in the late 80s, early 90s. And that housed a lot of people who are now out on the streets or homeless or whatever that would have been there. So that's what I mean by there's not many resources.
Well, but you can't force these people into treatment, and you can't force them into a mental health facility.
No, you can't force them, but some of them would have elected to have been there as opposed to being on the street, where they too get victimized. They too get victimized sometimes. They get victimized by other homeless people. They get, victimized by a lot of people. They're just kind of like there to be messed with.
Well, it is like The Walking Dead. Have you ever watched The Walking Dead?
Oh yeah,
that's how they live.
Yeah, they got societies and everything.
I'll just tell you this: the majority of them, they're not there. That's where they want to be. And if you try to pull them out of a shelter because you got grant money,
right,
or block
because
money.
There's rules. They don't want to someplace where you got to adhere and abide by. They don't want to do that.
That's right.
They want to do what they want to do.
So they say, you can't do dope here.
Right.
Oh, I ain't staying.
Right.
I ain't staying.
What you mean I can't do dope?
You can't drink. You can't drink.
Right.
Can't rob people. Got to steal your own stuff. Got to take a shower. Yeah.
Well, hey, you know what? It's a land of the free, I guess, right? But you want to beg from people on the street too. That's the other thing. You don't want to do all that, but you want to beg from people. So.
And then it's not like, hey brother, can you spare a dime?
Those aggressive panhandlers.
Yeah, they're aggressive, and they'll follow you, and then they start yelling. It's like, hey, homie.
Yeah, I used to not give them anything, and lately I've been giving people money, and I never did that before.
You have?
I have.
Well, that's because as you become more progressive, I'm sure.
You know what I think it is?
You know the ones I hate? The ones I hate is when I'm stuck in traffic and I'm on, Venice Boulevard or Washington or somewhere downtown L.A., and now they're walking right down the middle of the goddamn aisles they're on the street,
right,
in traffic.
Sure,
walking around with a sign, or they walk by your car.
Right. Can you give me something? Give me.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I hate is there'll be a guy there selling flowers, or a kid selling candy, and then a bum begging. Now, if I'm going to give somebody some money, I'm going to give some money to somebody's going to give me something back. I'm going to buy something as opposed to give somebody. That's just me, But I have, man. Just lately, I've been more charitable. Period. I don't know. I just as I'm getting older, and I don't know.
Sure. Well, Jesus is watching, so
there you go. And I'm getting closer.
To what? Jesus?
Getting closer to Jesus
every
day.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah. So anyway,
this sweet name.
So we're at our first 30-minute break.
We're
going to take that break, and we're going to come back and jump into some stuff that was a long time coming, and it finally happened. And we'll talk about that when we come back.
OJ got out?
That's coming. See you in a minute.
Or bruising, I'm taking no crap, pipe bomb in my talking and telling. Son of a bitch, he was a snitch. Drama.
All right, and that was Drama by Ice-T, the LA player. So we had a situation that's been a long time coming for many of us in Southern California law enforcement, and I'm just going to let the video play, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Video number 2, former cops indicted. So this involves Death Row Records, and you may have heard the situation with law enforcement being involved with them doing security for Snoop and Tupac, etc. And this is kind of an offshoot of that.
With Sky Map 7, you'll witness breaking news like never before. Real-time street mapping, only from ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Retired LA County Sheriff's Lieutenant and his son, a one-time cop with the Compton Police Department, have been indicted on federal drug trafficking and money laundering charges. Prosecutors say Reggie Wright Sr. and his son, Reggie Wright Jr., are both members of the Grape Street Crips gang.
Suge Knight lived over in this area here, over on this side of town.
That's Reggie Wright Sr. in the documentary Biggie and Tupac, a look at the life and deaths of rappers Notorious B.I.G. and Tupac Shakur.
When Tupac was killed, these guys, took offense to that. And that's when we had the retaliation.
Wright Sr. retired from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department in 2014 and previously worked in a gang unit for the Compton Police Department.
Reggie was the most cheerful gang officer we'd ever met.
So you said the mob started here?
Well, actually, this house right here to my right is one of the leaders of it. Used to live. These kids, these are the good guys on the street. They don't get in any trouble, right, guys?
He and his son, Reggie Wright Jr., were both arrested last week in Southern California on federal drug trafficking and money laundering charges out of Memphis, Tennessee. Prosecutors say the father and son are among 22 gang members and gang associates responsible for running a drug pipeline from Los Angeles to a gang in Memphis. The drugs include heroin, marijuana, meth, and cocaine. Reggie Wright Jr. also worked at Compton PD, but later left law enforcement to work for Suge Knight and Death Row Records. Suge Knight is currently awaiting trial on murder charges after he barreled his truck into 2 men in a Compton parking lot. He's pleaded not guilty. And Reggie Wright Sr. and Reggie Wright Jr. have not yet entered pleas. Reggie Wright Sr.'s attorney tells Eyewitness News that his client is not a member of the Grape Street Crips gang. Both father and son are out on bail and being monitored with ankle bracelets.
Okay, so let me start off by saying that I do not believe for a second that these are actually bona fide, legitimate, authorized, jumped-in members of the Grape Street Crips. I don't believe that for 1 second at all. I don't think the Grape Street Crips would even want anybody who had any police affiliation in their organization, and I don't think that those guys were so far gone that they would think it was okay to be Grape Street Crips. I just don't get that. Okay, so I don't believe that. Do I believe that there's something going on that shouldn't have been going on? Yeah, I can see where that allegation comes from, because the word's been out in Southern California law enforcement circles for a while that Compton PD Death Row Records connection was something to stay far away from. And this is before anybody started getting killed. This is before Biggie, Tupac, all the rest, before the murders came about.
And I remember that I used to hear Inglewood PD also involved in those guys.
Yeah, you know what? I did hear that. In fact, I'm trying to remember. I wouldn't say the guy's name if I could remember it, but there was somebody over there with a name that popped up. And I know there was somebody from another organization in Inglewood that was certainly affiliated, a guy that I knew that I actually saw with an artist from Death Row. But there was LAPD guys too.
Right.
And I'll say this guy's name. I think he might be out of the pen now. But David Mack was affiliated with these guys, as was Rafael Perez from the Rampart scandal. Mm-hmm. And these were guys who, they were denying knowing these guys, and then somehow the investigators break out a photo of them in Vegas with these guys, dressed just like them with red suits on and cigars, and you're hanging out with the guys from the gang members from Death Row Records. So that whole thing, man, that stinks. It stinks like, you got to stay away from that kind of thing. You just can't have that kind of affiliation as a police officer. And, I got a call from somebody today who's in hot water with the department because he belongs to what's considered to be an outlaw motorcycle club, which, some people would call it a gang or whatever. And even though he hasn't been accused of any specific crime, the department's frowning upon that affiliation, right?
Well, if it's an outlaw motorcycle, I mean, like,
if it's right, it's not like a Hell's Angel type of caper, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's not one of those, but it still has a designation of an outlaw biker club. So what is it? Avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety. So when you hook up with an outfit like Death Row Records, which openly claims affiliation with the blood gangs and the gang lifestyle, which openly has felons working for it and on its payroll and on the music roster and everything else, and you're traveling and you're supposed to be out there providing security for these people while they go on about their business, some of which is not legitimate, some shit's going to get splashed on you, man. As they say, you lay down with dogs, you get up with fleas. So I don't know that these guys are gang members. I don't believe it, but I do see that this is a long time coming. Mm-hmm. And it'll be interesting to see what they have to say.
I think it's a classic mistake that that a lot of cops make, and that is your head gets turned by the cash.
Right.
A lot of these are cash gigs and under the table and no taxes taken out, and so.
Yeah, and these guys start having this lifestyle.
It's different today than it was, back, 20, 25 years ago. It was very different. Today it's a different world. But 25 years ago, I knew all kinds of guys doing different things for different people, and some of it you'd go, "Oh wow, that sounds cool. Can you get me in?" The other was like, "Man,
are you crazy?" Yeah, no, definitely. Oh no, definitely. And
crazy.
There's people who want to buy your badge, so to speak. They want to be able to rent your badge and the authority and the legitimacy it conveys for them, and you have to be careful about that. And so that's all you coppers out there watching. When you got these off duty gigs going, you got to be careful what you get yourself involved in.
When I took over as a security director for the media company that we talked about before, the first day that I was there, I had two off-duty LAPD officers there, and that week there had been a gang fight up there, and that's how I got
there
hired.
At the facility.
Yeah, so these two guys, when I get there. They'd been there for about an hour. We had them posted up, and they get there about an hour. Next thing I know, they're on the phone. Next thing I know, they come into my office and go, "Hey, we just got a call from our captain. We have to leave.
Wow.
We can't work here anymore. We can't work for that guy.
Get up out of here, yeah."
And off they went.
Wow. Well,
of course, I was able to find other cops, not with LAPD.
Right, exactly. Because there's always going to be guys willing to do it. Yeah, no doubt. So,
but we were trying to clean it up. We weren't trying to protect anybody.
Right, sure.
We were just in the process of cleaning it up, and so some people were, kind of taking offense to that. How dare you come in here and try to clean the place up and get parolees out of here, probationers?
Right. Interesting. Well, you just got to be careful because you can get caught up in, like you said, that cash, and especially when you are somebody whose name is getting out there and you have a lot of juice, and your name sometimes becomes synonymous with that record company or that recording artist. Man, like you said, your head can get turned. Mm-hmm. And you see the amounts of money coming through there, legal and illegal, and guys forget that oath, and they forget what they took the job for, and it wasn't for that.
No. It's a dangerous thing.
Yep. So
it's a career ender. It can be
it should be. Well, they were already both off the job, but still, you don't want to just let somebody wipe their ass with your good name, which is what that's coming down to.
And if you're a retired LASD lieutenant, that means something.
That means something. That's good stuff.
That means something to drag it down.
And don't
to
prostitute
that level
it like that. Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we have a story out of Baltimore that a lot of people tagged me in. I think Chuck Farmer was. I think it was Chuck Farmer tagged me in this, and it's a video about Baltimore police officers, and it appears that the officers are planting drugs. I think Baby Sis Trish actually tagged both of us in it too.
Yeah,
I know I got tagged in it a couple of times today. So we're going to show the video, and then we're going to talk about it. And I have a theory what they might say. I don't know that it'll hold up, but I have a theory what they might say as far as how they're going to explain this. But they certainly got some splaining to do.
An investigation after body camera video appears to show an officer planting evidence. This footage was only recently discovered. It seems to show officers staging evidence earlier this year during a drug arrest. Jeff Pegues is outside Baltimore Police Headquarters with how the department is responding. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning. The Baltimore Police Department has been under pressure for years to reform, and part of those reforms have included the introduction of body cameras. But what the video shows in this case has rocked the police department across the street as it responds to allegations that a police officer actually planted evidence.
Open the door.
In body camera video released Wednesday, Baltimore police officers are seen pulling over a driver in January.
Take it easy.
And then searching and arresting his alleged dealer.
Drugs, anything like that?
I think grass. The officers move on to the yard behind a vacant house looking for the dealer's stash.
There's going to be more here.
That's when footage appears to show one officer placing evidence on the ground, walking away, and then returning to discover it.
It's clear that they manipulated evidence in this case.
Debbie Katz-Levy is among the attorneys in the Office of the Public Defender who first raised concerns about the possibility of police misconduct.
In the first few seconds of the frame, the officer appears to be placing a can on the ground with suspected narcotics in it.
So when you see that, what do you think?
The first reaction is it's pretty egregious, but the second reaction is thank goodness we have the body cameras.
Body cameras are now worn by tens of thousands of police officers across the country, providing an unfiltered look at interactions between police and the community. But this video highlights the control officers have over what is being recorded. What did you see in that video?
Jeff, I saw the same thing that probably you saw and everyone in Baltimore and probably now across America has seen.
Baltimore Police Commissioner Kevin Davis said the 1,500 body cameras deployed in his city can help expose officer misconduct.
I saw video footage of officers apparently placing evidence and recovering evidence in a way that's inconsistent with the way police officers do business.
Commissioner Davis has vowed to get to the bottom of what happened here. The primary officer who was involved in this has been suspended. The other two that you see on the video there on administrative leave. Now, as far as the man who was arrested, he actually spent 7 months in jail before prosecutors were alerted to that video and before they dropped the charges. Nora.
All right, Jeff, thank you so much.
All right, so that does not look good for the city of Baltimore and the Baltimore Police Department. It seems like, it's like Baltimore is the LAPD of the East Coast. They're like LAPD East because it's like they're in the news, like LAPD used to be in the news all the time for different stuff, man. It was Freddie Gray. And then after that, something else happened where it was some other kind of scandal. I think it was like a city jail scandal, a sex scandal or something. And then this comes out, oh, my God. Like, really? And nobody even talked about Baltimore PD before The Wire. And now all of a sudden they're like in the news for everything,
But they have always, the police departments on that coast have always they've had a reputation for that kind of corruption.
Right.
And it was one of the things that I remember when I went to the academy out here, it was one of the things that, all the officers that I ever encountered here as trainers at the academy especially, they kind of prided themselves on the difference between West Coast, especially Southern California law enforcement and other agencies, especially over on the East Coast. So I don't know.
There's a difference between Southern California and Northern California coppers. So
Right.
definitely East Coast.
Right, but you said that you thought that there was a way to explain what we saw, and I'm interested to hear what that is.
I think what they may say is that the first time when the officer initially recovered it, his camera wasn't on, and that he wanted to go back and recreate that, which is still improper. But it's not him planting dope that wasn't there. It's just him not documenting it properly. And that's what I think they're going to say. I think that's what that officer's probably going to try to say is, hey, I recovered the dope, but then I realized my body camera wasn't on. And so in order, because I knew the tape could be admitted into evidence, in order to show how I recovered it, I just kind of reenacted the scene. And he probably hoped nobody would notice. But how those cameras work is they're always recording. And they record on a 30-second loop. And if you don't activate your camera, then everything that happened more than 30 seconds ago is erased.
Right.
But once you turn it on, then it activates the previous 30 seconds too, and saves the previous 30 seconds also. And so I guess maybe they didn't know that or something, because the previous 30 seconds shows you putting the dope in the can and putting the can down there. You know what I mean? So
well, I don't think it shows them putting dope in the can. I think it does it.
No, it shows. I think there's a whole nother part that has no sound because it's from that 30 seconds
right
of just silent video recording where there's no audio. But I think that there is video that shows them actually putting the dope in the can and putting the can down there, and then coming back and discovering it.
Then it shows them putting the can down and then walking away, and then they come back with the audio activated.
So that makes me wonder. Okay, so here's the thing, and here's the difference. You may say, "Oh, what difference does it make?" Here's the difference it makes, because if that's what that officer's doing, then that's the difference between maybe taking a heavy suspension or being fired, or going to prison because not only did you try to plant dope on somebody, you had to possess it first. So there's another charge there, besides the whole miscarriage of justice thing. So that's the big difference. That's a huge difference between getting fired and going to the penitentiary. So I think that's going to be that officer's defense, and we'll see if that holds up. I don't really know enough about how their camera system works.
Yeah, right? I saw something in my news feed, and I actually tried to find it later, but I just couldn't find it because I get so much stuff. But there was something, and I think it was on the Blue Lives Matter website or Facebook page that came in. And it referenced this video, and it said something about why this planting of evidence, I had it in quote, really isn't that. And there was.
I would like to see that,
but I don't know what it was. I didn't get a chance to look at it when I saw it. Scrolled through and saw that, and then when I tried to find it later. So if anybody has that or any of
it's going to be interesting to see. Because
I think it was on the Blue Lives Matter Facebook page. I think
because number one, that's a lot of dope to try to put on some cracked out ass dealer who probably is just trying to sell to feed his own habit. And I don't know, man. Who knows? He may have a hard on for the dude and wanted to get rid of him for a long time or something. You never know.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting how that turns out. Now, speaking of there's more than meets the eye, there's been all over the place, man. You got tagged in it. It's in the What's Going On in Riverside County page and a bunch of other stuff. And people are making all kind of comments, and people are tearfully recounting how this could be your mom. There was in Paris, California, which is in Riverside County. Riverside County is where Palm Springs is, for point of reference for those of you outside California. And Paris, Perris, is a city that contracts with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department to provide police services. There was a high school graduation. I think it's Paris High School, was it? And or some high school in Paris. I think it was Paris High School.
I don't know which school.
And you know how outside the graduation, people are selling all kind of stuff, man. They're selling water and Gatorade and flowers and
Hawaiian Lays,
balloons and Hawaiian Lays and Lickies and Chewies and everything else they're selling out there for you to, sit up in the stands with, right? And horns, those big noisemaker, those horns.
Right.
So this lady apparently was selling flowers, and she was contacted by a deputy, and then it went downhill from there. So we can play video number 4, rough arrest of women selling flowers sparks outrage.
Here, let's go to John Finolio. He's in Paris tonight. He joins us live with details. Hello, John.
Well, good evening, everyone. The violent arrest you're about to see actually occurred last month, but was only recently brought to our attention. The images are disturbing, but police say they don't tell the whole story. A woman clutching flowers as a Paris police officer tries to subdue her. 52-year-old Juanita Mendez Medrano, arrested for selling flowers without a permit outside Paris High School on graduation day. Police say she and other vendors walked into the street to sell their products, creating a safety concern. But not everyone agrees. Jason Hernandez was there that day.
A safety hazard, maybe if they were out in the streets, like in the middle of the streets, but they were in the corner of a high school or even in the parking lot right here. They're not going like to cars like directly.
After being thrown to the ground, Mendez Medrano can be heard defending herself, pleading with the officer. Why go after people trying to make a decent living? Why not go after gangbangers, she says as the officer rolls her onto her stomach. The Riverside County Sheriff's Department, which operates Paris Police, issued a statement saying in part, "Our officer repeatedly told Mrs. Mendez Medrano why she was being detained and that she could not go without being issued a citation. After giving several fake names, attempting to leave, and pushing the officer away, our officer attempted to arrest Mrs. Mendez Medrano for violating the city ordinance and obstructing justice. But those who were there say it was the officer who escalated the incident."
They're stepping over their boundary. Like they should just like calm the situation down, not to tackle a lady that's trying to, provide for her her family.
For others, just seeing the video is overwhelming.
I could have been your mother, just trying to make it by, trying to feed her family, and that's the way she's being treated. My heart goes out to her. My heart goes out to her family, and man, I hope there's justice, but change needs to come because this is crazy.
Again, the Riverside County Sheriff's Department says that this video does not tell the whole story. It only shows the end of the confrontation. Now, I did make numerous attempts to reach out to speak with a representative from the Sheriff's Department in person and on camera. However, we were told by email that no one was available to speak with us. I also spoke with another person who says they were there and witnessed this all go down. That individual says he did observe some vendors walking into the street. He also says that Mrs. Mendez Medrano resisted arrest and was confrontational with the arresting officer. Reporting live.
So, it is certainly shocking to see a lady flipped around like that. And you say, well, she's selling flowers. She's bringing peace, love, and joy to the graduation ceremony. And to see her get flipped around like that is shocking to the senses. And a lot of people look at that and go, oh, my God, that's violence on the part of the officer. That must be uncalled for. The officer must be wrong.
It is for the motor officer, by the way.
So but you got to understand what happened before the video, right? They said that the officer contacted her and it sounded like it was a lawful stop. Mm-hmm. You're out here in the street and maybe you're holding up traffic or whatever. Even if you're not, if there's a city ordinance against it, that's all the reason he needs to contact you and to detain you. And she's giving fake names now. And so now I'm wondering, and I don't know, and I don't mean to make any assumptions here, but if I had to guess, I would say that maybe she's concerned about deportation under this newly aggressive policy we have. So she's being dodgy and she's giving other names. And then when it comes down to, I'm going to give you a ticket, no, you're not, because I'm going to get away now. And she tries to push and walk away or whatever. And then the officer goes to grab her and she still didn't give up. I mean, she fought. Mm-hmm. When you fight, the police are going to not just say, okay, well, since you want to make a big deal about it, then fine, go on about your business.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever going to do that, okay? So all you're going to do is multiply that force by you keep fighting. And I don't care if it's a lady or a grown-ass man. Anybody can get this work. If you're resisting arrest, we're not just going to let you continue to resist arrest and win.
Right.
So it looks bad, I know, but police work isn't pretty. And this is one of those things where he took that lady to the ground, and it was fast, but it's not like she lost any teeth. It ain't like she got a concussion or anything like that. I've seen worse. I've seen worse, okay? I'm just saying. But, comply. If you don't want,
she broke the golden rule, the Ride Along Radio golden rule.
Comply now.
Complain later.
That's it. And she didn't. She complained then and didn't comply. She got it backwards. She's been watching the show, but she got it backwards. Okay. She complained then and did not comply at all. Comply now. Complain later. You have your day in court. That's what the ticket's for. Hell, the ticket is for a date with the judge. Right. Explain what happened.
Right.
He's trying to set up an appointment between you and the judge, and you're not even letting him do that.
That's your opportunity, for God's sakes.
Yeah, so like I said, I know people are shocked, and they had the pretty little Mija with the braces. She was wiping away the tears and stuff. So she was shocked by that and taken aback.
She was stunned.
Yeah, it could be your mom.
She was taken aback.
It could be your mom.
Could have been my mom.
Trying to feed her family. And so she's out there turning on the waterworks.
Look, here's the thing. I've worked special events before, and you get these dang vendors, and they don't have permits. Because they just say, fuck a permit. I don't need no permit.
I'm out here making this money.
I don't need no permit. I don't even speak your language, for God's sakes. Why I need a permit? But they're so aggressive because they just want to sell.
Right.
And you say, hey, excuse me, can you get out of the street? At least move on the side. Right. Okay. I've seen them block traffic between people exiting an event, vendors selling crap, and then Uber rides picking people up.
Right. It's
just a mess.
Sure.
It's just a mess. So, when you're going to have a high school thing, or they tell motors, hey, can you guys just kind of cruise around?
Right, because somebody's going to get hit.
Keep traffic moving, make sure nobody gets run over, and this is what you get. It makes me crazy to see, to watch grown adults who should know better. That she knows, number one, she probably is in the country illegal. That's why she's giving the fake names. I think you're right about that.
I'm just guessing.
I'm gonna guess with you on that. And so, and that being the case, how dare you even have the audacity to start telling the officer, why are you arresting me? Why don't you go arrest some gang members? Why are you messing with me?
Right. Right.
Once the officer's made legal contact with you and says you can't go. Guess what? You can't go.
You can't go.
You don't have a right. I don't know where people get these rights. Maybe they watch too much TV. I don't know. I don't know what shows they're watching that say, hey, you have all these rights. You can do what you want, say what you want. Whatever police officer tells you to do something, you ain't have to do it. If you're black or Latino, you ain't got to do it.
Let me tell you something. I have never seen anybody talk their way out of a ticket or talk their way out of handcuffs. I have seen plenty of people talk their way into a ticket and into handcuffs. Happens all the time. But I've never seen anybody talk their way out of a ticket or handcuff. Either the officer's going to do what that officer's going to do, and unless you've got some really extenuating circumstances, you're probably not going to be able to change that officer's mind. Because especially now we can't even send the message that if you parlay with us on the street and you say the right things, then I'm going to let you go. We can't even let that example begin to be set. So that's why you got to comply. We can't have it where if you struggle a little bit, we're going to let you go. Because then everybody will be doing it.
Right.
And there'll be anarchy.
As it is, in the state of California, we've decriminalized a whole bunch of violent crimes. They're now classified as, quote, serious crimes, close quote, or they've been reduced to misdemeanors and then misdemeanors to infractions. And it's all behind this notion that the criminal justice system and cops are so racist that that's why so many blacks and Latinos are being arrested and incarcerated. And the truth is, we're just doing more crime. It's really just that simple. It isn't racism. If I work in a city where the majority of the population is Hispanic, and I come to work each day, guess what? All my contacts, citations, and arrests, and witnesses, and victims,
as long as it's balanced, as long as it's demographically balanced, sure,
they're all going to be Hispanic. So, I don't know. Well, I do know where it began, but I'm not going to say it. But I do know where it began. This notion that the cops don't have a right to touch you. They don't have a right to talk to you.
People have been feeling that way.
They don't have a right to.
And people say, I know my rights, and turns out you really don't.
They don't. That's the thing is they don't know their rights. Man, but they want to start quoting the law to you.
I saw a thing for this app. It's like a fundraiser for an app about if you get stopped something. And the guy is saying on there, hey, the police can only search you with your consent. So if you don't give them your consent, then they can't conduct the search, and that's bullshit. I'm sorry, it's just not right. There's other situations by which the police can search you, but that's the kind of misinformation that's going on out there.
Right, but for a simple thing like a traffic stop, if I get pulled over for a traffic violation, and the officer walks up and says, "Hey, the reason I pulled you over is you did whatever you did back there. Let me see your license, registration, and proof of insurance." Once I hand him all that stuff, he doesn't have a right to say, hey, is that your bag on the back seat? Yes, it is. You mind if I look in it real quick for my safety?
No, he can ask.
Oh, he can ask.
No, he can ask. Oh, he's got the right to ask, certainly.
But the answer is no.
Right.
No, you cannot.
And so I think this is what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to eventually see a move to when you make a stop, you need to ask everybody the same questions and not you ask certain people, can you search this stuff, and not other people. and then maybe they give you consent. Then it's up to you if you're going to do it or not.
Well,
but I think we're going to see that because there's been
cumbersome, and
well,
you're going to need a whole bunch of sergeants out in the field.
Well, you know what? They were at one point
I mean, as it is, LAPD for every
That's what I was going to say.
Every serious call, they request a backup, a sergeant, and an airship. I mean, it's ridiculous. LAPD's running code 3 to everything. Number one,
that's a liability reducer.
And then number 2, if it's other than a clear misdemeanor or infraction, they're sending a sergeant, a backup, and an airship.
Right.
Now the airship may never get there, but it's at least
clear by then. He's rolling at least.
Get it going that way, but
yeah.
It reminds me of the grand jury just did this. LA County grand jury before they were finished with their term, they did this thing on as research on police pursuits. And they came to the conclusion that there's too many of them and they're too dangerous, and most of them are for traffic anyway, and so we just need to have less of them. And they never asked law enforcement. I just heard Charlie Beck interviewed the other day about this. And he said, we would have appreciated it if they had at least come to us.
Right, I did see that.
And said, hey, here's what we're doing. What's your input on what we found? So that they could add some context
from
to
a
the
law
content.
enforcement perspective, right?
And this is the thing that it makes me crazy on my own Facebook page because I get these out of context messages, not messages, but postings,
posts,
and comments. And I just shake my head because some of these people are really smart, and they should know better.
Things, sure.
And they should know better. They should know, if you're going to have a content, if you're able to put that content into context for me, now we can have a discussion.
Right.
But if you're just going to take something out of context and just put this and then attach some meaning
to it,
blurb?
It's a nice blurb or it's a soundbite. So
right.
So listen, we're gonna get into our big meaty topic, but we do need to take a quick break. We're gonna take a 2-minute break, and then we'll get right back. We'll get right back at it.
Hey Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand? Gotta mess around town. Now give it a gun.
All right. And that was Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix. Actually, that people don't know, that was a remake, actually. The original song was done by a group called The Leaves, English group called The Leaves I think they're English, back in the day. And then Jimi Hendrix took it and made it bigger, bolder, and badder. From The Leaves or the Jimi Hendrix album?
The Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, I have that. Well, you probably have it on, actually, like
on vinyl,
right? Yeah, I have it on CD. Yes, that was Jimi Hendrix, man. Late, great Jimi Hendrix. So I understand we got a caller on the line. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
What's going on, Holt? It's Geoff Brown.
Jeff Brown. GB, what's happening?
I'm doing all right. Hey, Gil.
Hey, now.
Hey, I quoted you earlier. Did you hear that?
No, I did not. I was actually calling in on a radio show back east. I'm in the middle of a tour right now.
Are you? You're on tour?
Yes, it's called the Kind of Famous Comedy Tour. It's me, Evan Lionel, Daniel Dugar, and Andre Covington. We're all headliners. We're all touring together.
Nice.
No, I did not hear you quote.
The quote was about if somebody sabotaging your life. It's probably at least partly an inside job.
Oh yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I like that, man. I appropriated that.
Thank you. You may.
But I didn't do it without attribution. I actually attributed it to you. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. I really wish I could say that I came up with that, but that came from my Uncle Chuck.
Okay. Well, he's a wise man indeed.
Yes, sir. Question. I was listening to you guys a couple minutes ago, and I just, as usual, I find a lot of Gil's commentary interesting. And
interesting. That's a good one.
Yes. I found it interesting. Gil, did you say that the vendors you were discussing that did not speak English, you spoke of them at least, they don't even speak your language? And I have two questions. One, generally, what race were the vendors you were speaking of, and which language is yours?
I don't know if I said anybody didn't speak my language. What I said was the vendors didn't speak English.
Well, what you said was, I don't need a permit. I don't speak your language. I think you were speaking from the vendor's perspective, and you said, I don't speak your language. As a vendor would be saying that. That's what I think. We have to play the tapes back, but I think that's what you said.
Yeah, play the tapes back.
Well, we're not going to play it back right now.
No, we can't play it back right now. But I'm just saying,
Okay.
we'll circle back around to it next week after we play the tape back.
Okay, absolutely. Well, let's call.
But you
that
had a
one
larger
watch.
point. You had a larger point with the language. Was it ownership
okay,
of the
yeah.
language?
We can even put the language on the back burner. The other statement I believe you made was that the concept of racist police officers was erroneous. Is that what you're saying? Hello?
No, I'm with Gil's thinking. He's playing the tape back
I
in
don't
his
know
mind.
that I said racist cops were erroneous. I don't know if I said that.
I think you said something about the narrative being that these people
I got
get
a lot
locked
of
up because of their
papers.
race. I think that's what you
I
said.
got a lot of Gil. I'm trying to give you this question off the rack. If you need it custom made, I can tailor it for you.
Please do. Please do.
Okay. Here's my question. In your opinion, is racism in the police department a problem?
No.
No?
Nope.
Okay. Well, then you're going to have to notify the, I think it's at last count, 25,000 or so individuals who work for the FBI who let out a survey this January that said that the police department was rife with white supremacists.
Which police department?
I'm sorry?
Which police department?
Well, let's see here. I'll read it for you right off the web, and I will preface this by saying I was not up late last night doing this shit myself. White supremacists and other domestic extremists maintain an active presence in U.S. police departments and other law enforcement agencies. A striking reference to that conclusion, notable for its confidence and the policy prescriptions that accompany it, appears in a classified FBI counterterrorism policy guide from April 2015.
Now, I did hear this before. This is not news to me. But it seemed like that was concentrated, I want to say in like the southeast, for the most part, was concentrated in the southeast region of the United States. So your the south of your Mississippi's and your Florida, et cetera, et cetera.
Alabama.
I do recall reading that. It wasn't that long ago that I read it. So yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing. Any racism in law enforcement is a problem, right? And that's no matter which direction it cuts in. And anybody who acts on those beliefs and how they carry out their job is certainly a problem. I can say it's not the problem it once was, because at least now people got to keep it on the low. But it's certainly a problem. I mean, it's maybe not the problem that a lot of people want to make it out to be, but it's certainly a problem that still exists that we still need to deal with.
Well, Brother Holt, you and I have had this conversation at length off of the air.
Right.
It wasn't you. I believe it was Gil that just said there absolutely is no racism.
No, I didn't say there was no racism. I said, is racism in law enforcement a problem? The answer to that is no. I'm sure you're going to find racist cops like you find racist anybody else. But is it a problem in law enforcement? Is it affecting how they do their jobs and the people they're arresting? And the answer to that is no, because there's millions of people arrested on a daily basis, and they all go to jail, and they're not, nobody gets killed, nobody gets shot. It's not racism, it's just crime.
Okay, and it is your belief that that most of the crime is being committed by blacks and Mexicans per capita. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that we commit crimes at a higher rate. That's correct.
That we commit crimes at a higher rate.
In proportion to the percentage of the population.
Okay, so that would mean that is this something you coming across through just driving around in your car and your experience as a police officer, or is this something that you've actually given any study to before I bring up this next thing I'm bringing up?
It's both.
It's both.
Correct.
So that would lead you to say that in poor white neighborhoods, most poor white people aren't doing the crime, that there are Mexicans and blacks being bussed into those areas?
No.
Like in West Virginia. Let's just say West Virginia.
In poor white neighborhoods, I'm sure the criminals are all poor whites.
Okay, well, that's not what you said earlier. and it flies.
I wasn't talking about poor white people before.
Of course not. You generally don't. You seem to marry, and again, this is just me, and most of the time I'm high, so forgive me. But it just seems to me, and again, I can't tell you what it is, Gil, but I can tell you what it looked like. And it looks like you try to marry poverty, crime, and violence to color. And I call bullshit on that.
You know, okay, you know what? My answer to that is this. I think it could be interpreted
How
that...
you answering, Holt? How you answering?
Because I'm going to put this out there because this wasn't said earlier, and I was looking for an avenue. I think you just left the door open. I will say that what the stats show us is certainly that blacks and Latinos are arrested and convicted at a higher rate than whites. Doesn't mean that they're doing more crime. It means that all the stats show us is who gets arrested and convicted. That's what the stats show us. Okay.
Well, if you were to follow the stats, that would mean that nobody white has ever committed a crime.
Well, not nobody.
Yeah,
nobody.
There's plenty of white criminals. There's plenty of white people in prison.
Hold on, gentlemen. I'm trying to cross the street. Cars keep coming. I said,
play Frogger.
If you were to follow that logic, that would mean that nobody white and rich has ever deserved the death penalty because nobody in white and rich has ever had to face it.
I would have to look that up. I'm pretty sure that somebody has. We'll have to look that up.
Look it up. Well, let me tell you this. Holt. I don't like egg on my face, so I look up the shit before I call in. But you can look that. That's something that's been well known.
Okay.
Well known. There may be. I think there was a case in the 40s of a gentleman and his girlfriend who were both executed, and he was wealthy. He just crossed the other wealthy people. However, what you will not find on death row is a glutton of high-dollar lawyers fighting those cases.
No, of course not.
I didn't make this up. In America, the rich get service, the poor get sentenced.
Nice.
And,
I like that. That's catchy. I like that.
Yeah. I wish I'd have made it up because I would have copyrighted. I didn't make that up. I wasn't up all last night peppering the internet with the fact that there is a white supremacist presence ever prevalent and growing in America's police departments.
You think it's growing, really?
Yes, absolutely.
I think it's. Well, I don't think it's growing. I can't say that it's growing. I know that it's always been there, and it used to be. Again, you could be outward with it, and nobody cared. But I don't think it's growing. I think there's just too much scrutiny for that, and the FBI classifying these white supremacist groups as domestic terror groups. That's the kind of thing that's going to get you rolled out of a police department if anybody ever finds out. So I don't think it's growing.
Well, that's where I guess, and that is the one place, Holt, if I may say, on the air, you and another police officer friend of mine are so fucking cool that it's hard to believe you two guys were ever cops.
I don't know what to say to that. I say thank you, right? I don't know. Thank you, I think.
I mean, you and Gil both got that big ass cop head. Most cops have big skulls.
That's for our big cop brains. That's for our big cop brains and our big cop opinions.
That big ass head.
That big cop opinion.
I've actually answered this question this way. Do you know why I pulled you over? Because you need help getting your T-shirt off over that big ass head. Is that why you called?
Wow.
Your T-shirt need a zip on it.
Oh shit. He's coming hard. Yeah. Well, hey
yeah,
man.
But that happened to be a friend of mine who pulled me over. So
I see.
I am unscathed when I'm pulled over by the police because I know to pass the attitude test. I know that by the side of the road in the middle of the night in the dark is not the place to fight the case. That's just dumb.
Now,
however, for me to pretend or me to swallow the concept that crime of color is not at least some of it by design is to ignore the fact that there are no machine gun factories, poppy fields, or coca fields in any ghetto in America.
All right, man, and I think that's a good note to to close
That's a good
on.
night for me to get the fuck off the phone.
And I think Roger Rod is burning up the other line right now because he's supposed to be calling in too. So
tell him I said what's up.
I will. And hey, man, thanks for calling and adding your insight. And hey, good luck on your tour.
Good. See, here's for you. That's for you.
All right, man. Later. So we're going to get into our meaty topic here. That was comedian Geoff Brown, a perennial ride-along show fan favorite, and thanks for calling in. And
before we get to the meat, I found that article, and it's exactly what you just said. What the article says about the planting drugs thing is that rather than an officer planting drugs, it now appears that the officers were restaged the scene to fabricate the moment that the drugs were found in order to document it better on camera.
That's what I figured. That's exactly what I thought. That's the only thing that made sense to me. You still can't do that.
Right.
But it's better than you planting drugs out of your own pocket onto somebody and send them to the penitentiary. Right. So, maybe we'll go to prison for that. Maybe get fired, but then we'll go to prison for it. So what we have is the big story, man, this week, and it is the shooting of the Australian yoga teacher by the Minneapolis police. And a woman was unarmed. And what we're going to do is we have a quick video, and we have a caller, but the caller is going to listen to the video with us, and we're going to bring that caller in, and we're going to talk about this. And so it's video number 5, residents want answers after a woman fatally shot by police. Just to give everybody a little background if you haven't seen it. And this is the second high-profile shooting in the Minneapolis area. The other one was Philando Castile, which was last year, I believe.
Do we have big fat cop heads?
We must, right? They hold our big fat cop opinions. Here we go.
People in a South Minneapolis neighborhood are in mourning and disbelief tonight as they try to figure out why one of their neighbors was shot and killed by police. It happened last night in an alley near 51st Street and Washburn Avenue South. That's where a vigil was held tonight. Friends and neighbors tell us the woman killed was Justine Damond. The Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is leading the investigation into her death. We're here with WCCO's Jeff Wagner, who has more on this investigation and how people are really trying to remember her tonight. Right, Jeff?
And at this point, though, Nina, investigators haven't really said much. We have learned why police were called to the scene, but not why shots were fired. We've also learned there's no body camera evidence of what happened, even though officers were wearing them, leading to more questions and more grief for those who knew her. They are names forever etched in the history of people killed at the hands of police officers. And at the edge of this alley in South Minneapolis, the name Justine now joins them.
I mean, ask anybody here, they're shocked, like that other guy was saying. It doesn't seem like she'd be the kind of person to get shot in an alley. What the hell?
His feelings
Justine should be here.
Were shared by more than 200 people who gathered for a vigil near the spot where Justine Damond died hours earlier.
A person who you met her was just peaceful.
BCA investigators say late Saturday, a 911 call was made about a possible assault in the area and that a police officer fired their weapon, killing a woman. A man claiming to be Damond's son said in a Facebook video that she is who called 911 after hearing a noise in the alley near their home.
Yeah, she thought there was something bad was happening, and then next thing I know, they take my best friend's life.
Investigators say the officers involved had body cameras, but they weren't turned on.
I don't know anything about the law or police work to that extent, but to me it seems really stupid. I mean, you have a body camera, aren't you supposed to use them?
The same question was raised at a news conference with Minneapolis police and Mayor Betsy Hodges.
I share the same questions other people have about why we don't have body cam footage of it, and I hope to get answers to that in the days coming.
As this grieving community waits for those answers, they're also focused on honoring Damond. She worked as a meditation teacher and a life coach with the Lake Harriet spiritual community. Corey Burkholtz was one of her students.
A very conscious, loving person, and you wouldn't associate that with a gunshot in an alley.
Investigators add that the squad car video was on. However, it didn't capture what happened at the scene. They say they're actually trying to figure out if there's any video evidence of what happened even existing. The 2 officers involved in the shooting are on paid administrative leave, which is standard procedure, Nina.
Right, and so everybody, as we heard there, is wondering why it wasn't on. Did police comment at all about what the procedure is?
And as I mentioned, that was brought up at the press conference, and an assistant Minneapolis police chief confirmed that the officer body cam program is fully rolled out in Minneapolis, but he declined to talk about when it is expected for officers to have them turned on. So again, those questions will undoubtedly be asked throughout this week.
Yeah, a lot to learn. Thank you, Jeff.
All right. You know, this is an unusual case for a couple of reasons. One of which is that he actually had a civilian come on and say, I don't know anything about the law or police work. He admitted it at least.
Yeah.
And then said, but you would think. So we do have a call-in guest who's been listening to the video along with us. And he's going to be commenting along with us on this. And this is former police officer and current comic Roger Rod. Roger, you there?
Of course I am. Good evening, gentlemen.
All right, good evening. And for those of you who don't know, Roger has been a co-host on the show and a guest, call-in guest and frequent commentator and contributor. And again, with his law enforcement background and his insight as a comedian, we always enjoy you. So what do you think about that?
I always enjoy the pleasure of being on with you gentlemen. And by the way, I've learned a lot already on the show. I didn't know we all had big heads.
Big fat cop heads.
Oh yeah, and so Jeff sent you a shout out. I guess you heard that though.
I love Geoff Brown. Geoff Brown is a perfect example of where things should be going. He's very Black Lives Matter, and I'm not very Blue Lives Matter. I try to stay in the middle, and Geoff always tries to find the middle ground with me. We have sane, rational conversations when we discuss these things. There's a mutual respect, even though we have very diverse points of view. But that's
how it should be.
That's how it should be. Unfortunately, that's not how it is. Now, first off, I would like to make an announcement to anybody who is listening. If you are a social justice warrior or you're into microaggression or safe spaces or you're a snowflake, you might want to tune me the fuck out starting right now because you're not going to like what I've got to say.
Bring it.
I think Geoff just had to tune out.
Oh, yeah, I know. Geoff is really a delicate flower.
Yeah, right. U.S. Marine and all, right? Yeah.
Yes, I know that. Geoff is nobody to be playing with. Anyway, back to where we were. You and I discussed this briefly today, and you asked me to save it for the show.
Right.
I am dumbfounded by, first of all, I was outraged at Philandro Castile. But more than anything else, let's begin by the fact that the prosecutor couldn't have convicted Hitler. The judge had to have been somewhat of an incompetent to have not allowed that body cam to be shown on the Philandro Castile case. I knew that he was guilty before I even saw the body cam by seeing his lady's camera on this guy barking out orders on the red line 15 degree after he just emptied a magazine into a man who never even pulled a squirt gun on him. And then he lied on his police report twice. He pulled the creative report writing, started off with a PC of a broken taillight, and then changed it to a 211 suspect, which begs the question, then what the fuck were you doing making a routine traffic stop position if you had a 211 suspect?
The 211 is robbery, for those of you watching at home. And robbery stops are handled differently. Yeah, we all get into the jargon, but I have to translate because
I know, and I do that too much. When I start talking to police officers, I slip back into it, and I beg your pardon. But point is that obviously what happened there is they had 12 monkeys in the jury box, and I'm sorry the two of them are black. There were 12 monkeys. I don't give a fuck. I'm dropping that anyway. They had to have been idiotic not to be able to think for themselves. They had to think for themselves and not see through what had taken place there. Now we have the second incident. And what really needs to be pointed out here is that both of these shootings one was done by a man named Yanez and the other one by a guy named Muhammad. Now, I don't care if you're politically correct or not. It's making me wonder, was there some kind of affirmative action quota that got filled here where incompetent police officers were coddled through? Because both of these two share that in common. This goes, first of all, not all shootings are racist white cops. Let's get that out of the picture because neither of these was.
That is very interesting. That's an interesting point you bring up. I will point out that there's a large Somali population in Minneapolis, and so many so that there is actually a Somali Police Officers Association on Minneapolis PD.
Wow.
So there's apparently a collective multitude of Somali police officers on the Minneapolis Police Department. Yeah.
Which obviously no one would find any fault with if they were competent. I'm wondering if they were. Because what just got told to me that got done here and with what Yanez did, who is training these guys?
You know what? I really want to hear what he has to say. I read something on the way in tonight that said that the officer was his family is saying he shot her accidentally. Now, the family has no business speaking on that officer's behalf, and nothing they say is going to be binding to that officer, of course, but that's kind of the informal thing that's being leaked out there. But he shot her like 3 or 4 times. So that ain't no accident.
I didn't know he fired that many rounds.
Yeah.
And the only thing I'm hearing so far is he was startled by a noise. If you get startled by a noise, what the fuck are you doing wearing a badge?
Well, apparently he was startled by the noise just prior to her walking up. They heard the noise.
Right.
Then she walked up. And
she had a cell phone in her hand because she had been on the phone with the dispatcher.
She was talking to the driver officer.
Right.
And then he leaned across his partner and fired. And the statement today about the partners, the officer's Harity, apparently he's already told people that he didn't know why his partner was shooting.
You know what I wonder, and maybe this will come out, maybe not. Maybe it's just me taking a wild ass guess. I wonder if that kid fell asleep, and that noise startled him, and it woke him up, and he sees somebody standing at the corridor that he didn't even know was there. It was graveyards, right? Night shift. So I'm wondering if that's what happened. If he dozed off.
If that is,
it doesn't mean that he should. Yeah. As POTUS says, they're driving down the alley, and you're right. You think he'd be awake driving down the alley, but if he'd been up all day screwing around or whatever, he's passenger. He might have nodded it off, and then he hears a boom, whatever the noise was, and there's somebody standing at the passenger window, in half sleep mode. He breaks leather. He draws his pistol and it starts running around through the door. But damn, you shoot across your partner?
Yeah, I don't understand that at all.
Well, here's my question though, and this is what I wonder: are we going to treat this like we treat every other police shooting of an unarmed person?
Yeah, exactly.
Are we gonna get her tox screen? Are we gonna find out if she had marijuana or alcohol in her system when they do the tox screen at the autopsy?
Well, they'll do the autopsy.
Well, I know. Will they release the tox screen as part of that? Are we going to look into her criminal past and see if she had a criminal background? All the things that happen when in the past we've had an unarmed person killed by the police. So I'm just curious to see how we're going to treat this.
I'll even throw you another one. Why don't they just pretend like she's Trayvon Martin and do a background check on her like that? They'll find out everything she did in third grade. Maybe she was in an Australian gang affiliation somewhere.
She was in the Wallabies or something, right?
Yeah.
Will there be a White Lives Matter movement?
Well, see, you know what? This could be the beginning of it.
Is there going to be riots, and will white people start rioting in the streets now?
Let it happen 2 or 3 more times, and we may see that. But maybe she's the Crispus Attucks of the White Lives Matter movement, But this is what the Crispus Attucks. Crispus Attucks was the first person killed in the American Revolution. You remember that? You were in that class. He was the first. He was a black guy, happened to be, who was killed during the Hayes Rebellion or something, and he was killed by British, and that kicked off the revolution. They say.
Jesus, how about this? A black guy teaching white history.
I know, and you know what? I had a history teacher. He wasn't a black history teacher. He was an American history teacher, happened to be black, a professor in college, and he used to always say that in spite of what you may have been told in grade school, Crispus Attucks was nothing more than a black man who was in the wrong place at the wrong time and who was killed for being there. And that's absolutely the truth. It ain't like Crispus Attucks voluntarily stood up and took that musket ball to the chest from fucking redcoats.
Nah,
he didn't mean to do that, okay? So what I'm wondering is, will we now see the beginning? I mean, it's like if the shit happens a couple more times, we're going to say it's a problem. But I think that this will be a moment where people who did not feel that they would ever be killed by the police while unarmed may be now identified with the yoga teacher when they didn't identify with the cafeteria worker with dreadlocks last time.
Why don't we take this back a little bit further on both of these two officers, so Yanez and Muhammad? I've been screaming for the whole time since Philando Castile was killed. I want to see the jacket on Yanez, and I want to see the jacket on this son of a bitch.
Now, you say jacket, you mean their training profile or their personnel records? Or?
I want to see their personnel records. I want to see how many IA beefs they've got. I want to see how many citizens.
They were so new, though. They probably don't have that. They probably didn't have a whole lot. They're both pretty new.
Apparently, the Somali guy, he's accumulated, I think it was 3 beefs or 4 beefs in 2 years or something.
He's got like 2 years on the job.
And that ought to tell you the story right there. This is where the public has every right to complain about the blue wall of silence. Because the police, we knew, both of us, let's be honest here, fellas, we knew who the fuck-ups were.
Yep.
We knew who they were, and we didn't rat on them, because who wants to be known as the cheese eater in the fucking squad? Your backup is going to fucking roll at code 1 when your ass is in a fucking firefight. You know that. No one's going to help you. I get that. That's the circular argument, the endless, constant regression of this argument that's never going to stop, is the police end up covering up for each other because they realize they're the only friends they've got. When you get out in the field, you figure it out quickly.
Right.
The public doesn't understand that. They don't understand, well, why do you back him up? And then there's the argument that we knew this guy was a fuck-up when we let him stay, and look how it turns out.
But I think most of the challenged officers, I don't want to say effed up, but most of the challenged officers were doing stuff. I mean, we would just look at them and go, wow, that's a pretty dumb thing to do. But it didn't rise to some high-level felony or something. It was just dumb stuff. And so I don't really think there's a, quote, blue wall of silence. I just think that cops
there
is.
I don't think so.
I don't think guys get together and say, hey, we're going to put up the blue wall on this one and nobody says shit. But we both know guys who later, and I wonder if we had said something to those guys I'm talking about that we both know that ended up getting themselves in some serious trouble. I mean, indictments and shit.
Mm-hmm.
If we had talked to those guys when they were fucking up and we had pulled them to the left and said, hey, man, you can't keep doing this shit. Or had gone to somebody else and say, hey, this guy keeps doing this shit. And maybe got the guy fired so he
unless
wouldn't be
you
convicted.
actually see somebody breaking the law while they're on duty in front of you, that's a pretty, this whole, hey man, hey, did you hear about so and so?
Well, yeah, because
they're
there's
doing
rumors and
this,
shit,
they're doing that.
And yeah, guys
Look,
aren't going to do stuff in front of you if they know you're going to check them.
If I don't see it, I don't know if it's true or not.
Well, that's true. And guys who know you ain't down with that program are not going to do that kind of stuff in front of you.
Correct.
I'm sure we knew guys who got high, but they wouldn't do that shit in front of either one of us.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
But we knew who the redliners were, the escalators were, the guys that had the John Wayne syndrome. We knew who they were. And instead, what needs to happen is there has to be an anonymous way for the people up top to say, watch these guys and start weeding them out before they pull
and we had
like
a guest.
Castillo.
We had a guest on here who said that the same thing. Dr. Olafari Hutchinson proposed a sort of a WeTip line, an internal WeTip line for police officers to be able to give somebody up anonymously without worrying about getting Serpent code.
Absolutely, and that's the only solution that I see for it, because I never would have rolled on anybody because I know what would have happened if I had. I wasn't going to, but I knew who the people were. I mean, a perfect example, if I can tell one quick story, is I was rolling with this guy. I'm never going to mention his name. We were rolling. We come across a B&P. We used to call it underage drinking. And I was ready to just make them pour the beer out and let them go home. And this guy gave them the entire full ass rape and was nasty about it, brought him in all the way down the line. And when it was all over, I said, do you want to tell me what the fuck that was all about? Because I had to back him up. You know that.
Sure.
I had to back him up. And he said, didn't you see that guy's T-shirt? He was wearing a Twisted Sister T-shirt. That's a Satan-worshipping devil rock and roll band.
And that's why you fucked him over?
That's why I threw his ass against the wall and said, don't ever fucking get in my car again. But do you think it would have gone any further than that? And sure as hell, here's how it played out. A few years later, he John Wayne'd it up, chased somebody into a neighborhood, and got his ass beat nearly to death.
Wow.
Now, that's how it turns out the right way. The wrong way is Philandro Castillo. The wrong way is what happened to this woman. And somehow or another, anonymously, these guys have got to be weeded out. We have this incredible responsibility when we go out there, and if it isn't treated with the respect that people's lives are at stake, A, and B, they're shitting on our profession.
Well, that's the thing, right?
All of us look bad.
Right, and that's the thing, is that, people who have this narrative about racist police officers, that's because there have been racist police officers. And crooked police officers, that's because there have been crooked police officers. People didn't make that shit up. Those characters actually existed. So, and we all have to live that down, unfortunately, Do we have time for one more video, POTUS? Video number 6, outrage over deadly police shooting. And that's going to give us a little more information and a little more, because the first video was immediately right thereafter. Now, this other one is taken a couple of days later when a little bit more information is out.
The deadly police shooting, the bride-to-be, the wedding a month away, was shot and killed by police after she had just called 911 for help. It happened in Minneapolis. Justine Damond had called reporting a possible assault in the alley behind her home. 2 officers responding when she reportedly approached the car. The officer in the passenger side of the patrol car opened fire. And tonight we've learned their body cameras were not on. ABC's Lindsay Davis is in Minneapolis, leading us off.
Tonight, a Minnesota man is demanding to know why his fiancée was shot and killed by police after her call to 911 for help.
The death of Justine is a loss to everyone who knew her. She touched so many people with her loving and generous heart.
Justine Damond was originally from Australia, a yoga and meditation teacher seen here recently talking about her spiritual journey.
I'm originally from Sydney, Australia, and we have a beautiful tradition there.
She was getting married next month. But late Saturday night, she called police to report a possible assault in the alley behind her home.
It was dark. Damond exited out of her house into this alleyway and then walked toward the street to meet the officers who were in their squad car responding to her 911 call.
The Minneapolis Star-Tribune reports Damond in pajamas approached the driver's side. According to the Tribune, the officer in the passenger seat then opened fire through the driver's side door.
Shots fired. Can we get EMS code 3 Washburn and 51st Street? Got one down.
Damond's future stepson is outraged.
My mom is dead because the police officer shot her for reasons I don't know.
Both officers are on administrative leave. The police chief is calling for a transparent and independent investigation, saying, "I understand why so many people have so many questions at this point."
I am heartsick and deeply disturbed. I have a lot of questions about why the body cameras weren't on.
The city rolled out body cams last year after calls for transparency following the fatal shooting of Philando Castile in nearby St. Anthony. That officer was acquitted in the shooting that was captured only on dash cam. But in this case, no body cams were rolling, and the dash cam didn't capture the incident. Tonight, a father and son leaning on each other.
We've lost the dearest of people, and we're desperate for information.
And Lindsay Davis joins us live from Minneapolis tonight. And Lindsay, many questioning why those body cameras were not activated.
Certainly, that is a big question tonight. Why weren't those body cameras on? It's very clear in the Minneapolis Police Department policy that those cameras should be turned on prior to any search, any use of force, and any contact with a citizen. David?
Lindsay Davis leading us off tonight. Lindsay, thank you.
All right. Before I forget, Roger, you still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me talk about why I think the body cams were off. When we first got portable radios, rovers, we call them, your rover was off when you were in the car. As soon as you get out of the car, you turn the rover on. And the reason the rover was off in the car is because you needed to use the car radio, and there's a radio in the car that was rolling. Well, there's a camera in the police car that's rolling all the time. And she said you're supposed to turn them on before you make any contact, before you use the force, whatever.
They hadn't made contact.
They hadn't made contact, right. You're not out of the car yet.
Right.
So I'm assuming those officers get out of the car and they turn their body cameras on, just like we turn our portable radios on. So that hadn't happened yet. They were still in the car. And it's not like, hey, we're going to kill this lady when she comes out. Don't turn your camera on. I don't think it was that at all.
No.
They just hadn't been out of the car yet to make contact.
Right.
And the cameras are not rolling constantly. Nobody runs the cameras
I think the whole body cam, they're so dramatic in the presentation. I just think it's a nothing burger.
Now that is, I agree with you on that.
And the chief should clear that up. He should just say, "Here's the policy." They hadn't even got out of
they did have the policy.
Then he should say, "Well, they hadn't got out of the car. That's why the cameras weren't on yet."
Right. You would think that he was, because to me it's pretty obvious to us sitting here 3,000 miles away that if you're not out of the car, you're not going to have the camera on, man, because it's just. Now, it'll be interesting to hear, though, because the video was going on the dash cam, which is pointed forward quite naturally, that the audio will probably pick up some stuff. And that loud noise that they talk about, that probably is going to be verified by the presence of the audio from the dash cam. It'll be very interesting to see how this turns out, man. But there's no real answers at this point. Nobody's saying anything, and the officer apparently is not speaking. Officer Noor, he's invoked his Fifth Amendment rights, but so there's two things he's got to talk about. There's an administrative investigation where they want to find out if you violate any policies.
Right.
Then there's officer-involved shooting investigation too, right? And then there's a criminal investigation. He is not compelled to speak in the criminal investigation. He can be compelled to speak in the administrative investigation under the threat of being fired. Hey, I'm ordering you to talk. If you don't, it's insubordination, the punishment for which is up to including termination. So then he's got to talk to investigators who are investigating the admin side. But that statement then becomes inadmissible because it's what we call a compelled statement. And so you can't admit it in court, and you can't use it against him criminally because it's a compelled statement. You can't use compelled statements in the court of law. So that's why they may be saying he hasn't made a statement, because he probably made a compelled statement, because if not, I think he'd be a former officer already.
Well, apparently his partner's already made a statement, though, and they
his partner don't want to get involved in that?
And his partner said, "I don't know why he shot."
Yeah.
It reminds me of the shooting out here in Venice where the two officers were fighting with the
homeless guy?
Yeah. And when later when the officers asked the partner of the officer who fired the round, when they asked him, why did your partners fire his gun?
Yeah.
He said, I don't know.
Right.
He didn't know.
Right.
He was just stepping away.
He stepped out and washed his hands. Yeah, you're right. We call that writing your own beef.
Yep.
So you write your own beef on that. So Roger, what do you think about why do you think the body cams weren't on?
Well, I think what you've done is you've put forth a very plausible explanation, but why don't we start that argument where it really belongs? We didn't always used to have body cams. Everyone lives in this big brother world where if they don't see it in front of themselves, they don't believe it. And we have on this show many times seen body cam footage that's very, I would have to say, very much incriminating of a police officer, and we're saying, well, hey, I want to see what the fuck happened before the camera started rolling, because that was where the real story got told.
Right.
So why rely upon the body cameras? Why don't we just simply go with the facts as we know them? And this was an incredible over-application of any kind of a panicked police officer. There's no explanation for what he did, none, other than this was an incompetence that got
as far as we know
through the system.
From what we can see thus far, I have to agree with you. I mean, it looks damn bad. You know?
I still can't conjure up a situation with a cell phone in her hand, with pajamas or anything. And if he was asleep, that's about as incompetent as you can fucking get when you're on patrol.
I'm trying to find a kid away out of the electric chair. Okay, I'm just trying to say shit. Maybe he was asleep.
And I want to put him into it, and I want him to have Yanez sitting right next to him.
Sit on his lap. He can sit on his lap in an electric chair.
You get 2 for 1.
Yeah,
get
save some electricity.
But what I really want to continue to drive home is the message that the positive, I even want to use the term positive, the one thing to take note of is that there are simply some incompetent police officers. This isn't all about the Ku Klux Klan in a uniform all the time.
That's right.
Right.
And
sure.
why don't we start weeding out the incompetence from within? Get the officers to help with this, because if we don't, these are going to continue to happen. And the second thing is, affirmative action can get flushed down the fucking toilet. The most qualified people belong on the job, whoever they are. But
yeah, you can't play with this job. That's for sure.
But that is the problem. And as police departments around the country, as progressive police chiefs around the country decide that the police department has to look like the community that it serves, well, in order for that to be true, you're going to have to go into that community and find people that don't do dope, don't have a criminal history, and actually want to do the job.
That's the thing, because there's people who have all that, but they have no interest in being cops.
Yeah. And so, and now in places like California, and I think eventually in Nevada and other places, we're going to have to say, okay, well, if you're a pothead or a former pothead,
right.
or
as long as you haven't done it in 6 months,
at least been, I was going to say a year, but I don't know, 6 months whatever it is. We'll let you through the process and see what happens. And they've tried this before. One of the officers that I arrested from the Long Beach Police Department back in the day for narcotics was part of a test they were doing, and they were doing a test to get more minorities into the department, and so they went to a no-stress academy.
Right.
They wanted it more like a college class, and they went all the yelling and screaming and all that stuff that happens at the academy I went to anyway. And so what they found was they did that for 2 classes, and they had nothing but problems with those officers. We have to get past this desire to be culturally whatever, and just do what Roger just said, and that is find the best candidate for the job, and let them do it. And nobody cares what race they are.
And that's the thing.
Gender.
Nobody's got to care. So that means that a black officer can go to Torrance PD and have just the equal job of getting hired as anybody else, and an Asian officer can go to Whittier PD and have an equal chance of getting hired like everybody else, because we haven't seen that before, and that's why the pendulum went too far in the other direction. It's time to bring it back to the middle. Just be whoever's the most qualified. Forget what box you check.
Because even with Christopher Dorner in LAPD,
that guy was a naval officer.
There were times in the academy he actually shot himself in the academy, for God's sake. He shot himself in the hand, and some of his trainers said, "Hey, this guy don't belong here." But
the red flag.
He had the complexion for the connection, and he stayed.
Well, I went through an academy when you were talking about it. There was one woman in particular. They decided X amount of women were going to pass my academy, a 40 class, and that was all there was to it. And this one woman, I recall that the first day the guns came out, we had to go to the range. She had tears streaming down her face and was flinching with every shot.
Wow.
And they coddled her all the fucking way through. And then when the great PR-24 came out, please translate
It's side handle baton. You see police officers with.
because we started out with a straight stick.
Straight
That's how
stick,
old I am.
yeah.
And by the way, straight stick. And by the way, both you two are going to make fun of me. Fuck both of you. But we started out with a straight stick.
Right. And a revolver. Hell, we had a revolver. I carried a revolver in the academy.
I'm afraid I had a revolver.
That's
Yes,
right.
I did. And it didn't have a flag that came out that said bang at the end of it, but it may as well have compared to what they've got now.
Right.
But point is that when the PR-24 came out, I remember them saying, this is going to equalize everything because an 88-pound woman with a PR-24 has the same plan and blah, blah. What happened is a woman with the tears streaming down her face, they broke out the PR-24. She went out in the field, got into it, pulled out the baton, and mid-stroke, the guy snatched it out of her hand and thumped the living shit out of her with it. That's how it plays out.
Yep.
That's how it plays out.
Well, you're not doing people any favors by letting them through if they don't belong. You're doing them a disservice, honestly.
You know, when you look at the old Dirty Harry films, there's a scene like that when it was one of the females was getting hired, and he said that's a hell of a price to pay for being stylish.
Right.
And that pretty well says it all.
Right.
Because we just saw, in my opinion, the only explanation I'm coming up with for Yanez and Mohammed is that's a hell of a price to pay for being stylish. I'd like to see both of their personnel records. Yanez had to have 20 beefs for excessive force. I could hear it in his voice. And obviously, look at this ass clown. There's no explanation. This is not going to come out.
They better start explaining, man. They better start explaining. We better hear something in quick.
Or they better arrest that kid.
Well, something. That's what I'm saying. There's got to be something happening there. So we're going to start rapping, Roger. But I know that you got big stuff in the works. So tell me what you got going, man. Let us in on it.
First of all, the first thing I have going is extreme gratitude for you two guys letting me on your show and probably running my fucking mouth too much.
No, we appreciate you.
That. No, I appreciate you and what you guys are doing. And the fact that we have a nice balance here from all sides of it is what really we are making a good starting point, at least when you have people like Geoff Brown calling in, we can have this discourse and we can put this out. This is the only chance we have to at least start an intelligent dialogue. Because what's been happening is not working. We need to do something different. This is a good place to start. And now it's time for the fast commercial. I'm with the Blue Lives Matter comedy tour. It's myself and 7 other veteran headliner comics that are either current or former police officers. And I'm very proud to say that of the 8 of us, 3 are white, 1 Puerto Rican, 4 black. So call us racist all you want and go fuck yourself.
Actually, David Raybon's on that tour with you, isn't he?
David Raybon
Yeah.
just did Tommy T's Up North, and David crushed it, and I loved his material and his set, the way he approached it. He hit all sides. We had Dwayne Gill, he's a Michigan State trooper. He can't, boy, did we tee off on him for that fucking uniform.
Oh,
my God.
Oh, yeah.
He always looks like he's ready to invade Poland, huh?
No, it more looked like a Cub Scout sleepover.
David Raybon was on the show before. He was a guest host about a year or so ago. So yeah, that's. So when do you guys kick it off, and where can people see you, et cetera?
Well, just check the website, please, BlueLivesMatterComedyTour.com. I'm trying to put some things up. I'm working with 2 people that are doing tours and putting them together. But the real problem with the Blue Lives Matter Comedy Tour is the producer is the guy you're on the phone with right now, and I have never even produced a fucking omelet. So I'm just learning how to put all this together. And my fellas, I love them. They have supported me all the way, and they've gone with me all the way. If I can give them a quick shout-out, is Kevin Jordan went all the way to New York, Cliff Yates, Dwayne Gill, David Raybon, these guys, Mike Mancini. It's just been a tremendous lineup. Mark DeMeo, he's a 20-year NYPD homicide cop. We just had a great run, and I have nothing but the utmost of faith in it. So check us out. I would be honored to come back on the show with both
please do,
gentlemen.
Please
Thank
do.
you very much for having me, and I'll let you wrap up your show without the mouth that roared.
All right, and that was Roger Rod. Thanks, Roger. You're welcome back anytime, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Thank you both, gentlemen.
There he goes, Roger Rod.
That was Roger Rod, former policeman and current comedian, and now comedy tour producer. Roger Rod.
Wow.
So, we ran a little bit long tonight.
Did we?
And our gracious producer is back there. She's packing her shit though. She's ready to go. So we're going to wrap it up. But this has been show number 84. So we're closing in on that fateful show 100. We're going to try to have people here in the studio audience.
That's going to be fun.
That's going to be good stuff. It's going to be good stuff. So until then, I'm George Holt.
I'm Gil Contreras.
This has been Right Along Radio Show. You can send us an email, rightalongradioshow@gmail.com. But best place to do is leave your comments down here in the YouTube section. I'm pointing to it right now. For those of you on the podcast, you can't see it. But when you watch us on YouTube, leave your comment down there. And then we'll circle back around next week for show 85. And we may give you a shout out. So, hey, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys then.